What up, everybody? It's JP Finlay. It's the Redskins Talk Podcast. We hope you are being safe at home, and sooner or later we'll all get back together. But right now the focus has got to be on our health and everybody else's health. I want to thank the good folks, Oarsman Automotive of Virginia. We ride with them. Want you to do the same thing. Go check out my guy Garv over at Oarsman Fairfax Toyota. He'll set you up with a 4Runner just like he did me. All right, we are not going to waste time on this one. I got to talk to Urban Meyer. It was a very, very good interview. He is a very forthcoming person. We talked about Chase Young and the player he can be, Dwayne Haskins, the player he can be, Terry McLaurin, the player and the person that he is, kind of what he thinks of the Redskins' decisions and how much he really was a part of some of the rebuild and some of the things we heard last season. You got to listen to this Urban Meyer interview. When I come back, it'll be Pete and Mitch and I kind of reacting to this. We got some other things to discuss, but I'm not going to make you wait. One more time, we are presented by the good people, Oarsman Automotive of Virginia. Here comes Urban. It is a huge pleasure to talk with college football legendary head coach, Mr. Urban Meyer. Coach, thank you for taking the time. Obviously, a lot of your former players are starting to land with the Washington Redskins between Dwayne Haskins, Terry McLaurin, Alex Smith. I want to ask you about all those guys, but I want to start with a guy that seems very likely to join the Redskins, and that's Chase Young. What's your impression of Chase Young, the player and the person?
Well, we have criteria that we look for when we go out and recruit, and number one is competitive spirit. He's a 5, and I always grade him 1 through 5. And so number one is competitive spirit. Number 2 is toughness, 1 through 5. He's a 5. Number 3 is leadership. Number 4 is intelligence. And number 4 is adaptability. And he's got them all. And besides that, God, I tell you, when God put together that guy, he said, I'm going to make one of the best defensive ends to ever play college football. And I think he's going to carry on in the NFL. I mean, he's got it all. And you're talking about a program that had the Bosas and Nick Joey Bosa, Sam Hubbard, Tyquan Lewis, Jalen Holmes, Johnny Simon, and here's another one. And just as far as physical stature and big size, fast, he's got it all.
So on that scale, it's 25 out of 25. How many players have you had to get to 25 out of 25?
We've had several that are doing very well at the next level, and he's certainly one of them. But some people, on top of those are kind of intangible values. Then you look at the tangible, and the tangible is the 6 foot. I want to say, I'm not even sure what he is. 6'5", 6'6". He's 265 pounds. He's a fast, twitched up guy, and then he's also been coached by one of the best D-line coaches college football has ever had. So, and the thing he also has is a mom and dad that they're very close. We're very close with them. Our whole staff is, I in particular, been in their home several times, and just wonderful people. Sometimes you're just not sure what you're getting, especially if you're a first-round draft pick. You'll be the face of your program. He's a wonderful guy from a wonderful family.
So coming home for him could be a really cool story.
Yeah, it's going to be a cool story, but you talk about and I talked to Chase about this, and Dwayne's dealing with it. When you're home, it's, you just got he's going to have to be disciplined. He's going to have to be really focused on the Washington Redskins, his teammates, his family, and really, sure, community stuff, but really limit, because he'll get pulled at. Can you imagine he'll be pulled in every possible direction. And so I'm going to have further conversation. I know his mom and dad are. So there's positives. Obviously, the positives outweigh the negatives, but don't kid yourself. There's some negatives about being drafted in your hometown too.
For sure. And you mentioned Dwayne there. How do you think Dwayne Haskins has handled that in his first year now in Washington?
Well, it's just I actually went to watch Dwayne play, and I've talked to Terry a little bit more than I've talked to Dwayne. Dwayne also has great parents. And, Dwayne likes the social media. I don't know if Chase, I don't follow him as much, or, when I was coaching Dwayne, I just, he's all over the social media. So I worry about that a little bit instead of, I like the Tom Brady approach, the just focus on your team. And I think as he continues to mature, which he is, and I think he had a good year. He was on a really bad team that had a good year, and they got competitive when he was in there. So I think he's handled it pretty good. They have a new coach. I met him one time, and I like Mr. Snyder. I've spent some time with him. I really, NFL needs the Redskins to be good again, and Dwayne's got to be that guy.
Do you think he has what it takes? To me, there's zero questions about Dwayne's physical ability. I mean, he's big, he's strong, cannon of an arm. Last year, he struggled with kind of adapting to an NFL playbook and an NFL offense. Is that a maturity issue, or do you think he just needs to learn the kind of the speed to process things?
Yeah, it took him 3 years to play at Ohio State.
Right.
And that's not a knock on Dwayne. It took Joe Burrow. It takes, that's normal. That's the normal evolution of a player. So to think a rookie quarterback that had 1 year experience is ready to come in and tear the NFL apart on a bad team. The reality is they were not a good team.
They were bad.
The quarterbacks, how the quarterbacks do in front of them or behind them or around them. And so I get it. For some reason, the NFL, when a team struggles, it's all the quarterbacks, fault, or it's the quarterback's inability to adapt to the pro offense. Or, I think a lot of that's nonsense. I tell you what, you put Dwayne Haskins around a great team, he'll be a great player. And I've been saying that. You tell me Drew Brees, Tom Brady, obviously, the Seahawks stuck on it, Russell Wilson, the best quarterbacks in the league. There's a couple things they have in common. Most importantly, they're on a really good team with really good, with good chemistry and good alignment and good culture. Those are things that I never hear people talk about. They talk about, well, he's not used to the pro offense. Come on. Okay. He's not used to the pro offense. Go surround him with on an elite culture and an elite team and see how he does. So I think I sometimes hear some of that stuff and I think, come on, surround him with a great team and you watch it, you'll be a great quarterback.
So to that point, I mean, last year for a rookie quarterback, he really got tossed into one of the worst situations in the NFL. He had a coach that wasn't particularly interested. That coach got fired. A new coach. You spent some time with Mr. Snyder, like you said. There were lots of reports that maybe Dan asked you kind of your thoughts on how to build the culture of the Redskins. How do you think they've done kind of cleaning house, starting over with Ron Rivera? Can that help Dwayne this year?
Oh, it's probably not a fair question because I don't know enough, and I hate to comment on things I don't know enough about. I think Ron Rivera's got a great reputation. Like I said, I met him. I met the general manager, and boy, just really quality people. But to say I know him and know the culture and know what's going on behind, no one knows until that team rolls out in 2020 what that's going to look like. So I think my opinion is that they're trying everything they can. Alex Smith is a guy that I had a long conversation with. And, he knows an elite culture. He's been with Chiefs when they started winning. He was in our program. So it'd be unfair, or, just not unfair to me, but unfair for me to really comment on the Redskins organization because I really don't know the ins and outs of it.
That's more than understandable. You mentioned Alex, and who knows if he ever gets back on the field, but he's certainly involved with the organization. With Dwayne, you talked about the social media, there are these little gaffes where you just wonder if he's seeing the big picture or if he's just a young man still learning life. I mean, he's only 22, 23 years old. Can Alex help Dwayne grow up, mature, and maybe get off his phone and understand where his priorities should be?
Well, I think Alex Smith, I'm very biased. I think Alex Smith is one of the finest players, people I've ever been around. He's brilliant. He's so mature. He was a guy that came into, he actually graduated college in 2 years at Utah. Think about that. His mom and dad were educators. He was a straight A student. I still think he had a photographic memory. He was so brilliant. But people don't realize how tough and such a great leader he was. And when he started getting criticized, that's what just concerns me at times around the NFL is when you take a kid like Alex Smith, you put him in just a terrible team. They were the Niners back then, and Alex can't play in the NFL now. And that's bizarre to me that a quarterback will be held accountable because he's on a really, really bad team. And Alex Smith was the best quarterback at the time and still one of the best I've ever been around. So I think they should utilize his skill to help Dwayne. I hope Dwayne takes it. You know, what's really interesting about the NFL, from the end of the season until April, you don't see each other. I mean, you're completely apart. And that was when we built, that was a lot of team building goes on in that off season. And then once OTAs and mini camps done, everybody disappears. So it's so much different than the NFL as far as, I hope they're doing that on their own. I don't know if they are.
Well, yeah, we'll have to see. Coach, I don't want to hold you up too long. I appreciate you giving us the time. This is my last one. I've come up with a nickname for Terry McLaurin, getting to know him as a rookie and just what an impressive human and football player he is. I call him a coach's dream. Is that accurate?
He is. I call him a selfless leader. He's one of my favorite of all time. He's a guy that was not ready-made when we recruited him. As a matter of fact, the story's been documented probably. You've heard it. He came to camp and been offered by some, not I don't think the big-time schools, and he was such a wonderful guy. And I said, you're not good enough. You need to go home, work on this, this, and this, and we'll check you out in a couple weeks. And you could tell he worked on. He told me he spent 5-6 hours a day. He is. If you build your franchise around a guy like that, and he'll be. I'm not sure he's captain yet. He should be captain. He's got everything you need to build a team around.
All right, last one. You got to pick one. Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa, Chase Young.
Oh man, yes.
You're an expert. Urban, thank you so much. I sincerely appreciate your time. Hope you and your family are safe and healthy in these crazy times.
Yeah, we're all good and really pulling for the Redskins. I think they got great hearts. They want to – I know Mr. Snyder wants to get that thing going, and I hope it works out.
Well, if you come back this fall, come on down to the field. We'll get to talk a little bit more.
Wish you well, man.
Thank you very much, Coach. Thanks again.
All right.
All right. The Urban Meyer interview was something else. Before we get to anything else, though, I want to wish a very happy 17th birthday to our dear friend, Rachel Frank. Turning 17 in quarantine, but it's my understanding she gets to start driving a car, gets her driver's license, so I think that'll be a lot of fun. Rach, we're all thinking about you. Happy birthday.
Pete, hit us with an air horn.
Meow, 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 meow. Happy birthday, Rachel.
Happy birthday, Rachel.
All right, let's talk business. When I got the Urban Meyer interview, we had it, got done, and Urban went away, and then it was Mitch and I on the Zoom, and I was like, oh my God, that was a 25 out of 10. I thought the way he talked and the range of topics we covered in a relatively brief, short of time, I think he was incredibly honest, and I was surprised by some of the things he said and surprised by some of the ways he said it. Pete, I don't know that we've talked to you specifically about the interview in its totality. What'd you think?
Yeah, he was definitely blunt. And of course, the biggest part of it, there's a lot of good stuff on Chase Young, but the biggest part was when he went on about Dwayne Haskins' social media usage. And that wasn't even, as the listeners just heard, wasn't even really a question directed about that topic. Urban just kind of went there. And, I think JP kind of said it well. I mean, Urban knows what he's doing. He knew that saying that was going to cause a ruckus, and he said it anyway. So I thought that was definitely really cool. And listening to that the first time, I definitely had the same moment where I kind of took out my earbuds and looked around. I was like, whoa, this is going to be a cool little storyline, and Redskins Talk is going to be the one generating it, and it's going to be coming from us. So really good job by you to get that, and I loved listening to it.
I mean, I didn't get that. He just said it. We were going to talk about Dwayne, but, I mean, Mitch probably could when we run the video, I imagine people could look. I kind of want to go back and look. I was pretty surprised when that entered into the conversation. I didn't push towards that direction at all. I wonder if I gave it away in my face or whatever.
So we're on an ISO shot when he said it. So, but I could see your face, and those of you who are watching us on YouTube, you see you're kind of looking around. Sometimes we're on our phones or whatever, and JP was kind of looking down, and he popped his eyes up, and you could see a little bit of wide eye, oh. He didn't say anything to interrupt him or pause him, but right. You saw it literally grabbed his attention.
Little ding in the head went off there.
Yeah.
But I think let's start with what he said about Chase Young. None of that is a surprise considering the things we've heard about Chase Young, but to hear a guy that doesn't seem too hyperbolic in Urban Meyer, I mean this with love, But like draft expert guys, like when your job is to be a draft analyst and a draft expert, like you have to really high level prospects every year. You have to gush incredible praise about them because that's part of the gig. Like that'd be like if we didn't do a post-game podcast week 10, we're not doing, that's part of our job. And part of our job is to be excited or pissed off depending on the results of that contest. So like for every draft expert, when they do their Chase Young report, they have to be almost over the top for a guy with his skill level and physical traits. Urban Meyer doesn't. Like he's not going to gain or lose viewers or market share based on how he describes Chase Young. So for him to describe him like that to me was pretty telling, I'd say.
I think what you said about the draft experts, that's how you end up with words like can't miss prospect or he's generational or whatever. Every year there's kind of like one buzzword that gets associated with a player, and that's kind of how they're thought of. To me, I thought getting kind of a peek behind the blinds of how like Urban Meyer and Ohio State evaluates players when he talked about the five tools, the 5 attributes, and the best part of the interview is just that Urban would answer the question that was asked, but then also like with the Dwayne question and everything else, he took you almost one step further, talking about how Chase was a 5 out of 5 in every category, and that he's the best. He's the best defensive end to ever play in college football. I mean, that's pretty high praise from
like he just coached both Bosas.
Right. He's a guy that's been around college football for the better part of 20 plus years. I mean, going back to Alex Smith at Utah, and then Ohio State and Florida and all these great teams to be around all these massive programs that played
way longer than that. He's been a head coach 20 years.
But head coach 20 years. But I mean, to be around football that long and to heap that kind of praise on somebody is next level.
Yeah, and that was my most critical takeaway from the Young stuff was everybody knows at this point that he's incredible on the football field, but hearing Urban Meyer kind of laud his off-the-field stuff, his seriousness, his competitiveness was encouraging. And, the draft every year, there's really talented guys, but if they're missing the stuff in between their ears, as scouts like to call it, then they're not going to make it. But it sounds like Chase is the complete package and will have that mentality and that confidence and that maturity to handle his rookie year and well beyond it, hopefully.
All right. The Dwayne stuff that stood out was the social media thing, obviously. And then I don't remember where he made the comments first. I'm guessing it was probably on Fox because he works for Fox. But he said again that Dwayne can be great. He just needs great players around him. And to his point, that's largely true of almost every quarterback. I think right now there's like elite guys, right? Like I think Russ Wilson does more with less than anybody in the NFL. Mahomes, I mean Tyreek Hill, if he can keep his S together off the field, could be a all pro. He could dance with some real numbers, but he also has Kelsey. Brady had talent over the years, but maybe not that much offensive talent around him. I just think Dwayne is a guy that's going to need talent. Like if you look at Roethlisberger, who has always been my ceiling for Dwayne, I think if everything works out great for Dwayne, he becomes a Roethlisberger type, big arm, goes deep, can move around, is strong enough to evade pressure in the pocket, but can also get out and move. Roethlisberger's really good, but he was his best when the team was really good. And I think that's a reasonable thing. The social media thing, I am largely dismissive of. I am particularly dismissive of it when it just comes from some talking head looking to cause trouble, make a hot take, whatever. This is his former coach saying it. And so my only issue with social media for Dwayne is if he derives value from it. Like if I'm on social media all the time, so are you guys, right? Like it's part of our lives. He's 10, 15 years younger than I am, so it's going to be a much bigger part of his life. But the issue is you can't let that get you up or down. You just got to kind of roll with it. So I think if for Urban to bring it up means he thinks it might impact his
mental state.
And I'm also okay if it impacts you in a negative, if you're like dragged on Insta, to borrow a phrase Dukes loves when I say.
You froze.
Say, I'm okay if it blank.
So start with I'm okay.
Where did I'm okay. So, like, have I been frozen for a while?
Like, yeah. 3 seconds, 5 seconds.
Oh, okay. I'm okay if it's a motivation tool, like, you know, these guys are being negative, I'm going to go out and show them and kick their ass. But, like, if you were getting –
this is all going on YouTube, by the way. You froze again.
Great.
Start with your I'm okay one more time. Try it.
I don't care. I'm okay if it's motivation from the negative comments. I just don't think it's the kind of thing that he should derive value from, the positive comments, because that value should be from teammates, coaches, and just yourself, your friends, your family, real people you know, not strangers.
Right. To me, I'll hit on the social media thing real quick. Just if it's something that's you know, almost recreational, extra, like I'm cool with it. To steal a Jim Zorn-ism, like stay medium as far as like how social media affects you. To me, the biggest thing that I took from the Urban on Dwayne was him talking about the situation that he was in last year. And I think it's pointed coming from a coach, recognizing how tough the situation was last year. And I think a lot of times we gloss over, you know, how we've talked about it plenty, but as we talk about last season and building towards this season, I think we gloss over a little bit how tough the situation was for Dwayne working with Jay Gruden, who didn't really want to work with him, didn't spend a lot of time, you know, molding him and helping him get there. And it wasn't really until, you know, Bill got there that he started, you know, really getting the time that starting QB, you know, gets. And so obviously we've seen from Ron Rivera what he did with Cam Newton, you know, back in the day, and you hope that he's able to do kind of the same with Dwayne. But hearing Urban talk about just, you know, how difficult that situation was and how bad kind of the team was offensively around him, I think those are pretty pointed comments from a coach. And I think that as a coach, when you look at a particular situation, and he knows obviously the talent that Dwayne has and has seen him play at his, you know, at his peak, I think he recognizes how tough all that is. And I think that's kind of a nice reminder for all of us that he was in that situation last year. And, you know, while 2 wins speaks, you know, highly, you also got to remember that he spent the first 3 months of his tenure as a Redskin not getting a whole lot of help.
Yeah, if Dwayne was a flower, the Redskins bought him at the flower store and then put him in the closet for 3 months and didn't give him any water and then just took him out and expected him to grow. It was not a good situation. But I'm going to go back to the social media because that's set a lot of people off, and JP's being calm about it now, but I know he had a hell of a day dealing with all the replies. And I think he summed it up well. Like, being on social media is not a crime. It's not a character flaw. Every single person surrounding football, fans, players, reporters, are on social media way too much. And it's not a problem if Dwayne's tweeting workout videos and hanging out with his buddies and quote tweeting and responding to Landon Collins and whatnot. But if Urban Meyer thinks it's a distraction to Dwayne and it's preventing Dwayne from getting better or staying focused, then that's when I kind of get a little worried. I'm not worried seeing Dwayne if he tweets 20 times a day. That's not really an issue. But if Dwayne is distracted and, you know, led astray and focusing on it too much, then that's when it becomes an issue, because people say, oh, there are all these players on Twitter. And sure, Tyrann Mathieu, Super Bowl champions, MVPs, all these people are on Twitter using it all the time, and that's okay. But those guys have proven it, that they can handle that and being a really good football player first. So hopefully Dwayne is not being distracted and being held back by his social media use.
And I think it's entirely premature to say he is, but it's just weird that his coach brought it up unprompted. Like, and if you don't think that's weird, then we just see the word. Then there are some people that are so somehow invested in this that they're just not allowing themselves to kind of see the realities that are also presented. Before we get to all the other stuff, and I'm going to talk about that, but what Terry McLaurin – Terry McLaurin's the best dude there is.
Yeah.
Urban backed it up. No surprise there, right?
No, not at all. In fact, as you started asking the question, and the folks that are watching on YouTube or seeing it are going to see it on TV, the coolest part about it is JP says, I'm going to ask you about a guy who we've called a coach's dream. And you just see Urban like break out in this like wry smile. And as you say, Terry McLaurin to him, you can see him, getting excited about it. It was a really cool like reaction to just saying the name Terry McLaurin.
Well, and think about what Terry did to impress Urban. Urban told the story about the camp, going back, working on the stuff, coming back. But how many kids redshirt? Maybe at Ohio State people are willing to redshirt because it's that level of the school. But I don't know. That dude's the best. For all of the stuff in that interview and what is the most important takeaway and everything, I enjoyed talking about Terry the most. I might have enjoyed the Chase Young stuff the most. It's stuck with me a little bit, and God, I need a haircut for the people on YouTube. My wife says she won't do it. So if anybody has any suggestions, let me know. And I don't want to go to the Pete barbershop. Although it looks better today than it has, Pete.
Thank you. I'm actually –
You shaved.
I shaved.
Yeah.
I shaved like 3 days ago, and we did our big rehearsal for the show. Nobody noticed. That's fine. That's okay.
Well,
it looks better shaved.
Well, appreciate it.
Don't let's see if I can get it right. Don't smile because it's over. Be happy because it happened.
Don't cry because it's over.
You're botching it so bad.
It's very simple.
I'm gonna get it one of these days.
One of these days.
I also don't know how that's relevant, but whatever.
Neither do I.
Quickly with Urban, I kind of asked him about Ron and what he thought of the rebuild, and there was definitely like reports that Urban was a part of the people who Snyder asked what he hit for his suggestions, and Urban kind of
Dan during the season
for sure. But he later told us that he was Terry McLaurin's guest, and he even mentioned that in the interview. But it didn't seem like Urban played a big role in the Redskins rebuilding, right? Did you guys?
Not really.
Not at all.
We were saying how forthcoming he was in that interview. That was one part where he was very buttoned up and not forthcoming.
Right.
And also, Terry McLaurin invited him, obviously has a relationship to Dwayne Haskins. And don't forget, obviously, Alex Smith is in that owner's box as well. He coached Alex at Utah, so they go way back.
Thank you, Captain Obvious.
A lot of connections there.
They're
starting to recruit more Utah players because of Alex.
Oh, don't you dare. Did he play a role in the Nate Orchard signing, perhaps?
Probably did.
I think, didn't Mitch try to say that?
Yeah.
I didn't try to. I just reset it again.
Yeah, he said that a while ago. We had a big argument on some terrible post-game pod or some practice pod a while ago.
That is one of the – for all the wacky Mitch bits.
The best is still when he didn't know that Ryan Anderson played fullback.
Yeah, that was a botch at the end of a long day.
It really worried us.
All right, so speaking of long days, Friday I was very frustrated on social media, mostly because a lot of people that just believe – I don't know. Somehow Urban Meyer talking about Dwayne Haskins' social media to some people, and I want to thank all the people that responded to me in kind and say they listen to the pod and they love the content and all that stuff. I appreciate all of you way more than you can understand. But there's a vocal minority that that attacked me for pointing something out about what Urban Meyer said about Dwayne Haskins, and you're wrong. One person used a ridiculous word that really upset me. But most of the time that kind of stuff happens, I just move on. Like, I'm not an engager. I'm not a fighter on Twitter because it's dumb, right? It's just nobody wins, and the people that are trying to get you mad, they believe they have won when you start replying and going back and forth. And the proof is out there because they celebrate this like it's some sort of victory. Congrats, dude. The highlight of your week was completely irrelevant to me. So let's leave that there. But why I had a lot going on Friday, and I'm going to make a bigger point here. My oldest daughter got really, really sick last week, and we were freaked out because of coronavirus and everything going on. And she had a really high fever and was throwing up. And for kids, those are symptoms of coronavirus. So we were terrified and on edge. Now, luckily for us, we got some really good health care. I don't know if we got good health care. We have a doctor, a pediatrician's office we use, and our doctor was cool enough and Friday morning did a virtual appointment with us. So we didn't have to go in, we didn't have to do anything. And basically what the doc said is, look, this is absolutely symptomatic of coronavirus, of COVID. And she told us we could come in immediately for a test, or they could set us up with a test the next day. And my wife and I just kind of looked at each other like, oh shit, is this happening? And then the doc was like, but it's also symptomatic of strep throat in little kids. So why don't we get her on antibiotics, see if those work, because you'll see results within 36, 48 hours. And if that helps, then we don't have to do the COVID test. And we were like, okay, let's do that. So literally, I'm arguing with numbskulls on Twitter while I'm waiting in a parking lot to pick up medicine for my daughter. And in hindsight, it's just so stupid. It's so insulated and unimportant, right?
Irrelevant at the moment.
Right. But I was just in a weird place that I don't often get to, and I hope no one else is. And luckily, everything's good here. It looks like it's strep. Everybody's rebounding. Temperatures are dropping. Things are good. Why I want to bring that up, though, is not to validate my behavior or anybody else for responding to me or any of that. What I found really important, and who knows, I might be getting myself in trouble with this, but our doctor and the couple nurses we also spoke with made clear to me, and this surprised me, and I don't know if it'll surprise you, there are COVID tests available. Now, this is just in the DC area, but like we could have gone immediately or we could have scheduled it. Like we had the option. So if anybody out there is feeling symptomatic, or you're with a loved one or a friend or whatever that you think this could be a thing, like call a doctor or go to these testing sites because they're available. And I feel like the way I'm hearing or consuming information, it seems like they're not available. And I don't know if that's a regional thing. I don't know if that's just in the DC area. I don't know if that's a Maryland thing or what. I don't know enough. So I'm not trying to be a doctor or an epidemiologist by any stretch. But if you're feeling sick, it seems like there's help available, and please get it. So that was my bigger point on all of that. Mitch is giving me eyes like he didn't want me to say that, or he disagrees.
No, you're 4 year, like a young a child having symptoms is a trigger to get a test immediately. I think it's great that's available.
That was weird, don't you think, Pete?
Because there's no reason to get political. I don't want to get political, and I don't even know if it's political, but I know like if you or I who knows, but you and I being, of a healthy age, like pre-existing conditions, all that kind of stuff. I think that there are issues with people who are not feeling well of our age that aren't able to get them. But then again, I don't know if that's regional. I don't know what the other determinant factors are of it. So that's why I don't want to get in. I don't know enough to get into it. That's why.
Okay. Well, odds are now we're just going to get rid of all of this because Lord knows you can't talk about anything.
I think you can leave all of this in. It's just I'll take it out for I think.
You know what? We'll let Shovers decide.
Yeah.
Let's bring in Tim Shovers, who has been listening to this nonsense.
Yeah.
Tim, you there? Or Pete, you have a comment?
Everybody's getting weirdly nervous. I'm glad your daughter's fine. I'm glad there's testing available, and I think that was a useful story. And that's just, I don't know why people.
For the record, that's the most important part. Your daughter is feeling better, and that's the most important thing of all.
Sure. I still don't know why Mitch got weird, but maybe Tim does. Tim is smart. Tim is our producer. Tim he joins us from time to time.
Tim wants to shut up so he can go watch the MJ documentary that we also all want to watch.
So we're all going to talk about that too. So go ahead, Timmy.
I felt like Mitch had some political statements to make, but stopped short because he knows the main rule number one of the podcast.
Boom.
And I feel like he stopped there, and then the trains got back on track real quick.
By the way, if some are watching and recognizing Tim Shovers, or you recognize that voice, it's because he's on the Nats Talk podcast all the time and is a burgeoning star. So we're being joined by a fellow podcast personality.
Oh, thank you.
Big man.
Good use of burgeoning.
I'll go one step further, Shovers. And this is another thing I'm not sure if I'm allowed to do, but I'm just swinging from the hip tonight. Are we allowed to talk about what may or may not be your morning job?
Oh, go ahead. All good.
Okay, so
I don't know if I know this.
I don't know it either, so let's do it.
Burgundy Blog. So the dude that actually runs Burgundy Blog is a friend of mine named Brent. Brent sent me a text that said, "Hey, is your guy Shovers on the Axios podcast?" And I was like, "I don't know. He does a political thing in the morning." And Brent was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's him. That thing's blowing up. Good for him." So, Shovers, good for you, dude.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the official tagline is the collision of news, tech, and politics. That is the official tagline, which I did not come up with.
Gross.
That sounds like the complete opposite of what I want this podcast to be.
Yes.
It is quite something to go from that to then Redskins or Capitals talk right after. Let me tell you.
I mean, we want to talk football and dumb stuff, right?
Yep. And somehow we started talking COVID-19 tests today.
Whenever I talk sports to anyone there, they look at me like I'm an alien. So, yeah, it's different worlds.
I can't wait to never work there and talk to anyone.
Mitch, only you made it political. I was just talking about there were tests available. That's literally what the doctor told me. Anyway.
I'm very happy there were tests available for your daughter.
Okay. I feel like that's still a weird thing, Pete.
We had a great Urban Meyer interview, and the last thing that never happened, okay? So let's just pick it up from there.
Okay. Last couple things. Draft week is here. We're going to have a million TV shows, which credit to our technical team and everybody that's involved with that. So just put your TV on NBC Sports Washington every morning for the Junkies and just leave it on all damn day. That's my advice. What do you guys think?
All day. There are shows all day, every day. Just turn it on and watch.
Okay. What was number two? We're going to have a bunch of podcasts. We're going to go Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. It's going to be fun. Everybody be ready to download Fast and Furious. Shovers, I know you are probably not that excited about that, but we'll try to have everything done at a relatively reasonable hour. But they're making us do like 3 hours live TV every night, so it's probably not going to be that reasonable of an hour.
Hey, I'm buckled up, ready to go. When the lights are brightest, that's when I come to play.
It's draft week. This is the collision of news, tech, and politics.
This is as close as we get to news, tech, and politics. We're on Zoom. We're doing news, and we're doing politics today.
No, we're not. We don't do politics. All right. Well, this is it. So the MJ documentary, I think this is the first shared experience America's going to have since the Super Bowl. Was there anything big in February that I'm sleeping on?
No. End of
right?
the season, no. The end of college basketball's regular season.
You know what?
Not the same.
To show, I mean, there were definitely some presidential debates that were a big deal.
I didn't want to chime in. Yeah, I didn't want to add politics. Yeah. I would say the White House report, the hour before Gobert tested positive, the first White House from the Oval Office.
Yeah, that was a big one. That whole night where, Gobert tested, Trump talked, Tom Hanks got it. That was the wild night. But I mean a fun shared experience, I guess. Because college hoops didn't even really get going. We didn't even have conference tournaments. There hasn't been anything. So I think this MJ documentary is going to be the first real shared. It's the only thing people are going to watch live. Whatever they're selling for these commercials, they should quadruple it, and they probably need the money. So I'm excited about it. I got to watch MJ. I grew up basically when MJ started winning all the titles. Shovers and Mitch are roughly my age, so they got to see enough of him. Pete is so much younger. Everybody go quickly. What are you most excited about in this documentary? Because I don't know that Pete really – for me, it's going to be reliving it. For Pete, it might be learning it.
Yeah.
This is huge for me. These stories, a lot of people have heard, a couple of times, or at least have hints of them. This is totally new material for me. It's appointment viewing. I can't wait. And it's just going to be great to learn about him, and then Rodman and Kerr and Pippen and just all the other cast of characters. So I'm fully in. I have no memory of Michael Jordan, even in Washington. So this is all fresh.
Well, I'm glad you have no memory of him in Washington, but having no memory of MJ sucks for you.
Sad.
Yeah.
I love the legendary state of mind that MJ played with. And I imagine that in this doc, we're going to get a lot of those little stories that give you a glimpse into how competitive he was and how much he took winning to the nth degree over everything. And I love those stories of the little side backstories that let you really see just how much he cared about winning and being the best at everything he did.
Timmy?
I can't wait to see how Jordan handled Rodman behind the scenes. I was 12 when it all happened. I only saw SportsCenter highlights. I can't imagine how those personalities meshed, especially in the playoffs.
See, I think Dennis was able to turn it on when he needed to. I don't remember what playoff game it was, but you remember he was an awful free throw shooter. And I think it was like an Eastern Conference Finals game during that three-peat run where they had to have both free throws, and he just casually knocked them down. Like I feel Dennis was such an athlete, he could turn it on when he needed to, and MJ just didn't care about all the other shit, stuff. He just didn't care. Is it only the last season? Is that, or is it?
Yeah, it's behind the scenes from the 97-98 season.
See, it's going to be awesome, but that's a bit of a bummer. I would have rather seen more. What I hope doesn't happen is that MJ is kind of a jerk, and the fact that for a whole generation of fans, he's better known for the crying memes than he is for what an epic athlete. He'll be my favorite athlete ever, always, right? So I just hope that he doesn't come across as a jerk or I don't know. I feel like the internet is in such a hurry to make fun of people that I hope that doesn't happen to MJ more than it already unfairly has. But I'm excited as hell to watch it.
It's pretty big of MJ to be allowing this to happen. I don't know if you guys saw I think it was Ramona Shelburne wrote the story.
Yeah, I saw that.
This was filmed in obviously 97-98 and Jordan, and it was agreed upon between the NBA and Jordan or whatever that they could only air the film if both sides agreed to it. And after it was over, Jordan said, I wanted to stick in the vault, and producers left and right came up trying to get him to release it and be a part of it or whatever, and he just shut it all down. And you should go read that article. It's really neat to.
Well, you got to get the payoff line. The day he finally agreed to let it out was the day of the Cavaliers championship parade in Cleveland. So when LeBron won what would have been his third, I guess, in Cleveland. Yeah. Kind of an interesting date to choose.
Yeah.
And one more thing, and this is probably silly, but it's how my mind works. They're putting Steve Kerr in the promotions and the graphic of this thing. Steve Kerr was kind of a seventh or eighth man. He was a good shooter, but I feel like his role is going to be more pronounced than it was on that team because of the success he's had with the Warriors. And maybe that's just me being a skeptic of things. But the fact that he's on that poster ahead of Kukoc, I just find interesting, at least. I mean, MJ knocked him out in practice one year. I don't know that it was 97-98 year, but I know that happened. So we'll see. But I imagine Steve Kerr being on there for you, Pete, makes it cooler, right?
Only because the most common comp I got during pickup basketball at Maryland and in high school was Steve Kerr.
Don't even. All right. I hate that I have to go back to you after you said that, but I don't have the email password. And last week we asked for if anybody's out there really having a hard time, you can send us an email. Shovers, you know what the email is?
Redskins Talk Mailbag at gmail.com.
So if hearing something from us at the end of the podcast could lift you up in these trying times, send us an email. And we got one, Peter, and Peter gets to read it even after that asinine Steve Kerr comment he just made.
Nothing about making it all about him.
Solely because he has the password to the email account.
This is from Jackson Harefield. Hey guys, just wanted to take a minute to thank you all for the great content that you've kept churning out through all the craziness. I know everyone is ready for sports to be back, but I'm a full-time employee for the minor league baseball team in Richmond and was furloughed this week, so sports coming back means a little more to me. And anytime I check my feed and see a new Redskins talk, it definitely brightens up the day. Thanks for all the great content you provide and for always keeping it real, even when the morons on Twitter think you all hate the team. I mean, those people are absolute morons. Thanks for the shtick, too. I've been listening from the beginning and still need to make it to a party, and after all this is over, it will absolutely happen. P.S. We have a guy who comes to our games who calls me Pete because he thinks I look like Pete, and we've talked about Redskins talk before. I keep telling him to stop insulting me, but he just keeps doing it.
Well done, Jackson.
Go Spiders.
Well,
or Squirrels.
Squirrels, dude. Squirrels. Go Spiders, too. We support all our Richmond teams. You know what?
Jackson.
Go Jackson. Thank you. I hope it works out, pal, and you get a new gig, and it happens fast. I can't wait. I hope we get back to Richmond. I mean,
I hope.
All right, let's go. I want to thank Oarsman Automotive of Virginia one more time. We ride with them. Want you to do the same thing. A ton of content come your way. NBCSportsWashington.com, the My Teams app. Put on the damn television station. Listen to Nats Talk. You can hear more from Timmy. Thank you for listening. If you made it this far, I owe you a beer.